Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unlocking an expert framework for moving beyond simply consuming books to actually retaining and applying their wisdom. We're going to take a really close look at the concept of lifelong learning, drawing from the insights of author John Pearson and some of the greatest minds in management and leadership. Now, I want you to ask yourself this question right off the bat. It's a tough one because so many of us read constantly, right? We devour articles, we listen to audiobooks on our commute, we buy all the latest bestsellers. But then, we struggle to recall what we've supposedly learned just a few weeks later. And this image perfectly captures that exact frustration. It's like hustling through a bestseller on autopilot, classic driver mode, reading just to get to the end of the page, but leaving all the practical insights and deep wisdom on the table. It's exactly what John Pearson calls the mistake of being a reader, but not a lifelong learner. Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. We've got 1. The passive reading trap. 2. Learning how to learn. 3. Find your learning style. 4. Capture and curate wisdom. And finally, 5. The lifelong learner mindset. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, the passive reading trap. So the irony here is just striking. You've got an incredibly avid reader, someone who spent 4 whole decades consuming important business and leadership books, yet he admits he lacked a systematic way to actually retain that knowledge until he turned 60. It's a huge wake-up call that time spent reading absolutely doesn't automatically equal time spent learning. It's kind of crazy when you compare this to how we read as kids. I mean, think about it. A single book can literally shape our youth. A gifted book called Kathy and Carl Captured nudged John's entire career path when he was just 9 years old. Or take the French philosopher Simone Weil. She announced she was a Bolshevik at age 10 entirely based on what she'd read. Barna research even backs this up, noting our moral development is often set by age 9. But as adults, we completely lose that transformative power. We start just getting through the book to check it off a list. Which brings us to section 2, learning how to learn. If we want to stop wasting all that precious reading time, we literally have to flip a switch in our brains and make the active choice to change gears. If nobody ever handed you a manual on how to properly read a book, well, this is where we fix that. The legendary management guru Peter Drucker really hit the nail on the head here. He reminds us that reading is just the baseline. In today's knowledge society, the specific facts you know matter a whole lot less than your capacity to continue learning. What we actually need is a rigorous discipline to keep up with our constantly changing environments. This awesome sketch of Drucker pretty much anchors our whole approach for this explainer. His teachings actually inspired the 4-part framework we're about to dive into. He championed the idea that learning isn't passive. It is an active discipline you have to cultivate. Let's move on and see how this breaks down into actionable steps you can start using today. All right, let's get into it. Section 3, find your learning style. Here is the high-level framework for moving from a passive reader to a lifelong learner. It boils down to 4 practical insights that, when combined, create your ultimate learning sweet spot. First, discern if you learn by reading or listening. Second, learn by writing and taking notes. Third, pair key insights with page numbers. And fourth, learn and remember with curated lists. We're going to break down exactly how you can apply these steps right now. So, insight number 1. Drucker was huge on this. You absolutely have to figure out if you're a reader or a listener. For example, John retains far more from a written memo, making him a classic reader. But his son, Jason, is a listener. He remembers just stunning amounts of detail from audiobooks. You've got to know this about yourself. And honestly, you should know the style of your boss, your board members, or your direct reports too. Tailoring your inputs to your specific style is step 1. Moving right along to section 4, capture and curate wisdom. Insight number 2 is all about learning by writing. John actually stumbled onto this life hack back in 2006 when he started a weekly staff newsletter. He promised his team a book review in every single issue. And guess what happened? By forcing himself to underline key insights and write summaries, his recall completely skyrocketed. It's simple. If you want to remember a book, write about it. Then there's insight number 3. Pair your key takeaways with actual page numbers. Just look at how effectively you can map out an entire book right on its blank front pages. John did this for Donald Rumsfeld's book, logging gems like page 246, calling the White House Chief of Staff the Chief Javelin Catcher. This method is so powerful that when a colleague shared John's review with Donald Rumsfeld himself, the former U.S. Defense Secretary actually sent John a personal letter and autographed book plate. No way, right? And insight number 4 brings the whole shebang together. Learn and remember using lists. Creating structured lists categorized across core competencies, what John calls management buckets, completely transforms a random pile of read books into a highly accessible personal database. I mean, tracking over 650 reviewed books means you aren't just reading anymore. You are actively building an arsenal of knowledge. You should absolutely start your own top 100 list today. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the lifelong learner mindset. I absolutely love this perspective from Steve Levine. He frames self-directed learning not as some boring chore, not as leftover homework, but as an absolute privilege. The exact moment nobody is grading you anymore is the moment you truly get to take charge of building your own intellect. And this quote right here brilliantly lays out the stakes. Basically, you're the exact same today as you'll be 5 years from now, except for 2 things: the people you meet and the books you read. Your future growth is entirely dependent on the quality of inputs you're choosing right now. If you're just passively skimming, your growth over the next 5 years is going to be just as superficial. I mean, even billionaires prioritize this. Mark Cuban reads for 3 hours a day. And he's not just doing it to pass the time. He's reading with extreme intention. He is hunting for just one actionable idea to give his companies a competitive edge. That is the ultimate lifelong learner mindset, hunting for the practical application, not just flipping pages. Which brings us to this really cool concept of building my ideal bookshelf. Whether it's Malcolm Gladwell picking the 12 books that shaped his life, or John selecting Peter Drucker's classic novel, curating your ideal bookshelf is a fantastic metaphor for curating your own mind and your own character. So, what makes the cut for your top 10? So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer. As you implement this expert framework, as you figure out your learning style, as you take notes, log those page numbers, and build your lists, ask yourself, are you just collecting facts? Or are you truly integrating them into your character, your competence, and your capacity to lead? Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.